Well, hello. Thank you for joining me today again on the Church History Trail. You're very welcome to the programme. And where we are is we're actually in Tintern Abbey. And we're going to have a look at a few graves here of the Colclough family. But before we do, I want to show you a wee bit of information. So this is the Tintern Church. It's not the actual Abbey. And as you can see, cemetery. So Tintern Church, it says this is an example of a capella ante portus, or chapel outside the gates. It was built on what was once the road between Clon Mines and Farthard. The Cistercians built chapels like this outside their monastery boundaries for use by lay people and travellers. Now, following the dissolution of the monasteries by King Henry VIII, the Cistercian monks had to leave Tintern. A soldier in the King's army called Anthony Colclough was granted possession of the Abbey lands and church, and several members of the Colclough family are interred within the walls in the vault of this church. And we're going to have a look at that. It says the structure we see today was probably rebuilt by the Colcloughs in the late 1500s. However, the chapel is older than that, and it is considered to be the best preserved cupola ante portus in Ireland. The marked graves date from the 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries. And so this here is on the grave inscription. So I'm not going to read this now. I'm going to wait to go in and try and read from the grave itself. But I'm going to mention this gentleman. This is the Reverend Owen Caulfield. And Reverend Owen Caulfield was the parish priest of Tintern from 1740 until his death in 1746. This is Bishop James Caulfield. Bishop James Caulfield was born at Salt Mills in 1732. He was educated locally, and in 1757 he was ordained a priest. He went on to study theology in the Dominican College of St Thomas at Seville, where he was awarded a doctorate after 8 years. Returning to Ireland, he was appointed parish priest of New Ross, and then following the death of Bishop Sweetman in 1786, he was named Bishop of the Diocese of Ferns. Now, when the 1798 insurrection broke out, Bishop Caulfield continually exhorted the people to peace and good order and allegiance to His Majesty and the government, and due obedience to the laws. The loyalist historian Sir Richard Musgrave accused him of treason, something that the bishop denied publicly. And then this is the killings of Scullabug, where 27 people from the Tintern area were killed in the burning of Scullabug Barn on the 5th of June 1798. The sectarian attack is one of the most infamous, gruesome events in Wexford's history. Of the 200 or so victims, more came from the Tintern area than anywhere else. One of the victims is thought to be buried in Tintern Cemetery, and you can pause the video there and have a read of the names if you so wish. Now, most of them were Protestants, but there was 20 Roman Catholics as well killed in that massacre. And then it says there the Colclough duel. Following the passing of the Act of Union in 1801, the Irish Parliament was dissolved. An election to Westminster Parliament was held in 1807. John Colclough of Tintern Abbey ran in the election against William Congreve Alcock of Wilton Castle near Enniscorthy. Colclough was the more popular candidate and was regarded as the champion of the people, while Alcock was a supporter of the ascendancy. Few people had a vote, and 40-shilling freeholders were obliged to vote as their landlord told them to. A dispute arose between the two candidates over voters who had chosen to switch their allegiance to Colclough, and it was decided that before the next day's election poll, the two candidates should resolve the dispute by duel. This was arranged to be held in Ardkintrisk on the River Slaney near Wexford town. The duelists were each handed a loaded pistol and then took up positions. Alcock fired the first shot, which went through Colclough's heart. He fell bleeding badly and died without uttering a word. Mr. Colclough's remains were placed in his carriage in a sitting position before his two friends and taken to his house on George's Street in Wexford town. And then it says here, Colclough's funeral. A wake was held for John Colclough over the weekend. On Monday morning, his remains were moved to Tintern Abbey. The number who attended was the greatest ever seen in the county for such an occasion. There were at least 15,000 horsemen in solemn procession, and as it proceeded, mourners joined in their hundreds along the way and walked as far as they were able. The procession moved silently from Wexford to Tintern Abbey, a distance of 18 miles. So he's buried here. And then this one here is Martin Roach. Local farmer Martin Roach was a lieutenant in the Irish Volunteers and section commander G Company No. 2, South Wexford Brigade. He was active in the Irish War of Independence. On the night of 12th of October 1920, he was engaged in the manufacture of explosives in a disused house on the Colclough estate in St. Cairns on the shores of Bunny Bay. When a lighted candle came in contact with the explosive material, it caused an explosion that killed 5 men and injured 9. Martin Roach was one of those who was killed instantly. Follow the green Bonway Bay walking trail to visit the memorial near the site of the explosion. And then it says Martin Roach was aged 32 when he died and was buried in this cemetery at plot number 13. In the aftermath of the explosion, his elderly father James suffered retribution at the hands of the Black and Tans, who stole and vandalised his property. So we're going to go in here and we're going to have a wee look. So we are. This is the church and the graveyard. So the first grave I want to show you is this one here on the left, where this tree is. Just in here. You can see the trees pushing it over. So it says, here lies the body of the Reverend Josiah. You can see where the F is actually an S, but it's the old writing shape of an S. Howard, who departed this life the 8th of September 1785, aged 42 years. So that's the first one. And then this is the church here itself. You can see more graves up to the left there. So you can. And then this is another grave here. This is a lady called Colclough. And my good friend, the cameraman GV, is going to read this out to us.
So underneath this stone are deposited the remains of Mrs. Martha Colclough, wife of Cesar Colclough of New Ross, Esquire, who departed this life the 31st of December 1802, aged 54 years old. Also the remains of Mrs. Martha Kidd, wife of Richard Kidd of Wexford, Esquire, who departed this life the 12th of January 1819, aged just 21 years old.
So we're going to go in now. As you can see, this certainly would predate the 16th century. There's no doubt about that. Quite amazing archway. So what we have here is part of the vault. Now I think the vault is also covering here as well, this grave that we've just covered. But you get round into the vault from the side. Now I'll show you where the entrance is, but you can't get in obviously. But a lot of the Colcloughs are buried here. So first one I'm going to show you is this one here. So this is Captain John Colclough. Now I haven't been able to find a date, but I'm assuming, possibly anyway, that this is actually the John Colclough who was not only killed in the duel, but he was also a United Irishman. So I'm not sure. He's a Captain John Colclough, but I haven't been able to ascertain whether this is the same man who was killed in the duel. He could well be. He was also suspected of United Irish leanings during the rebellion. And these are more Colcloughs here. This is another John Colclough in the middle, but he died in 1810, where the one we're interested in died in 1807, the one we're interested in, where this one is 1810. This John Colclough. So there's more Colcloughs buried there. But then this is the main one we're interested in. And this is a piece of history, folks. Massive history here with this tomb here. And of course the vault. So we're going to come in close and try and read this and see this. So here lies the body of Anthony Colclough, knight, and he was the eldest son of Richard Colclough of Wolfston, I think that is, in Staffordshire. And it says that he was a squire who came first to this land 34 years of age, or sorry, 34 year, the 34th year of Henry the Eighth, and let me see, the 34th year of Henry the Eighth, and what else does it say there? And then it says, and was captain of the pensioners in somewhere place, and others of great charge. He continued almost for the
It says there Edward and Queen Mary there.
serving during the life of Edward and Queen Mary, and then also
The most noble
Queen Elizabeth. So that was Elizabeth the First, and
died.
so that was in the life, the 26th year of Her Most Noble Elizabeth, and died the 9th of December 1584. You can see the date there. And then it says he left by his wife Claire. I'm not sure what that is. And then it goes on, but this is the this is the grave, the tomb, the vault of the Colcloughs, and especially of this gentleman here, who is called Anthony Colclough, and of course he came over here under the reign of King Henry the Eighth, and he was given this land here by the Queen Elizabeth the First. So this is the tomb here. Where you, so obviously this takes you in. This is the entrance into the tomb, into the vault, the Colclough vault. This is the entrance here. This is the roof. So I'm now standing on the roof of the entrance, and then I'm going to show you actually how you get in underneath here. Although it's blocked up, so we won't be able to get in, unfortunately. So this is the side here of the building, and that's where I was standing. And as you can see then, this is the entrance to the vault. So this is the entrance to the Colclough vault. Of course, the first Colclough being Anthony Colclough, who was a soldier of King Henry the Eighth. So powerful piece of history here. I've enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.